Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sonia. In this series of videos, I actually would like to answer questions that you may have, my readers may have. And so I've been posting like questions asking you guys if you have any sort of burning question for me to answer to help guide you through. Anything related to limerence, relationship wounds, spiritual guidance, energetic healing, things like that. I've been posting that on my social media and also to my email subscribers, and I'll be answering all your interesting questions in this couple of videos. Okay, I hope to make it into a really long series because I love giving this sort of advice, and I love giving this sort of information for free. And yeah, so let's get going to our first question, which came in about limerence. Okay, and it's from Sophia. Yours is a Z and an F, so I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm so sorry. Sophia's question is, I keep hearing about limerence, okay, but I'm not really sure what it is. But it sounds like I do suffer from it. I would want to know though, how is it different from just being in love with someone or having a crush? Because it just feels like love, because it feels just like love, though I don't think I've been in love before. Okay, Sophia, thank you so much for your question. And this is a question that I get a lot of times, and I actually constantly address it in my coaching sessions, and I talk a lot about it on my YouTube channel as well as my book as well, which I'll link down below in the description box. But limerence is incredibly different from love and from just having a normal crush. Okay, it occupies a very different energetic space. But to answer Sophia's first part of your question, what is limerence and whether you actually have it, um, I will link some videos on like the signs of limerence, but limerence really, okay, is about the very intense feelings that you actually have, where you are just obsessed with this person. It goes beyond like a crush or a feeling of attraction, because this isn't a fleeting like, oh, I like this person, but it's really really ongoing. It's a full on mental and it's a full on mental exercise where you're constantly fantasizing about this person, and you're feeling all sorts of emotions about this person, and you go through a lot of emotional ups and downs, where it's completely dependent on how the person is actually treating you or reacting to you. So you might find yourself thinking about them constantly, daydreaming about them and what you're doing together with them, that you guys are going on dates, you guys are married, you guys are in a relationship. You may even like a lot of these scenarios are actually about them returning your feelings, reciprocating your feelings, and you feel incredibly euphoric whenever you think of interacting with them, or whenever you think about them actually reciprocating the feelings that you have, no matter how small it could be. um this term was actually coined by psychologist Dorothy Tanoff in the 1970s. Okay, she actually observed a couple of different people and how they actually reacted to like their crushes, or what seems like crushes at that point in time. But actually, when she read through some of their diaries and talked to some of them and interviewed some of them, it didn't feel like a normal crush. So she coined this term. And it's very very appropriate in our our society today, where so many of us are actually online, and we are not really out there meeting people that much or dating people. We're all kind of hiding behind a screen, so it actually makes it very very easy for people to kind of get really really obsessed with other people. And this whole celebrity worship thing as well with social media, fueled by social media, has also made a lot of people engage in limerence with celebrities. There's such a thing. It's a form of parasocial relationship, and but you get really really obsessed with the celebrity and think they're your boyfriend or your girlfriend and things like that. So lots of people are actually going through it, and it's become like, I wouldn't say a very common thing, but it's become something that a lot of people actually are struggling with, and want to get better at I want to heal from. So first off, to answer Zovia's question, limerence versus love. Okay, and how is limerence different from love? So first things first, love, okay, is grounded in reality, because it's about knowing the person's flaws, knowing the person really, really well, inside and out, knowing the person's flaws and the not so great stuff, the person snores, is always late, doesn't screw on the jam jar, lid after they finish using the jam, and then when you pick it up, it crashes to the floor. Sounds a bit specific, but yes, it happens. All these things about them, you're irritated by them sometimes, but you still really, really care for them. Okay. Love is mutual. Love is based on trust, it's based on affection, respect, genuine connection. It's not about some, one-sided emotional roller coaster like limerence is. And love is not just a mental activity or exercise that you just imagine your lover just exists in your head, but you actually really, really know the person, and you spend time with them, they are physically present in your life, you know about them, okay, they know about you as well. And the person is a real person. You aren't like just, and you're seeing them like the good and the bad. You aren't just cherry picking qualities that you want about the person, and that happens really, really often with limerence. In contrast, limerence thrives on uncertainty. I'm not saying that love is completely certain all the time, because in love you're also taking huge risks and huge gambles, and sometimes you don't know what the future holds for the both of you, but you do trust in the process and trust in your partner and yourself that you're going to go through this difficult journey called life together, and that you have each other and things like that. Okay, but in limerence is all about the uncertainty. You get excited and you get like that high emotional high and low because of the uncertainty. And the uncertainty actually doesn't put you off the person, it actually makes you even more committed to wanting to think about them, okay, or wanting to be limerent about them. Because when you are in limerence, you're constantly seeking signs that the other person might feel the same way, and that you're constantly looking out and hyper vigilant for signs that the person might reciprocate, just like what I mentioned earlier. You're waiting for them to actually return your feelings and to feel the same way as you. And any mixed signals can send you into overdrive. Like, it makes you very, very anxious, and you can spiral completely out of control and feel like you're you just feel like you're hit with something like in your gut, and it feels very physically painful for some of us. um it's the what if scenarios that actually keeps you hooked on your limerent object. And it's something that actually keeps you in that limerent cycle. Love, on the other hand, it feels a little bit more secure. um I'm not saying all the time, but it usually feels more secure. If you have a very insecure kind of love, that's a video for another day, because there may be signs or some issues actually in your dynamics or in your relationship that you actually need to look at. But love usually is very stable and very secure. But limerence often feels exciting. It feels electric because it is unstable and uncertain. Okay, the grounding is just not there because the person is not in your life. Okay, um, and a key difference as well is that love grows over time. So deepening through shared experiences, emotional vulnerability, reciprocity. Um, it's just always limerence. It's just something that limerence doesn't have. Okay, because limerence can feel like a very like, it feels like a quick burning flame. Sometimes it's very intense, it's very all consuming. It consumes your entire life and your mind, and you are constantly thinking about the person. But it often lacks in true substance, because like when you're sick, the person is just not there, the person is just in your head taking care of you, but you are alone. um and you may not know this person very well, or you think that you know them, or you cherry pick like qualities about them, but you actually don't know them very well, because a lot of limerent people actually make up a lot of scenarios and stories about their limerent object. So they assume that their limerent object seems to be a very happy, positive person who's always smiling. So they are definitely a very, very cheerful person, very optimistic, always smiling, always very friendly, always very approachable. You start to make up a lot of stories about a person, and because you do not know the person very well. So, yes. So you kind of are very fixated on who you want them to be, and you're very fixated on the stories that you have made up of them. So whenever it's you find out that your limerent object is not like who you think they are, it can be very earth shattering, and it can completely like devastate you because you have been clinging onto this story of them for such a long time, and this story is amazing. There are amazing people in your story, but people have flaws as well, and they're not always perfect. But in your story and your mental image of your limerent object, they are amazing, flawless human beings. They can't possibly make any mistakes and they can't possibly upset you. So when they do, it completely, like, your world completely crashes. Um, so that's the key difference. Limerence, on the other hand, doesn't really feel as something that you can grow over time because there's nobody around, with you to actually grow that love or that feelings with you, right? And moving on to infatuation versus limerence. So infatuation is a little bit more short-lived. It's usually when you're very excited by the newness of someone. There's a novelty, there's curiosity, there's maybe physical attraction, rush of excitement. But infatuation or normal like crushes, which all of us have, they tend to fade after a while, especially after you get to know the person better. It's a very surface level, usually physical attraction, or maybe you're attracted to certain qualities about a person that you've observed, but when you get to know them better, you realize that, hey, they're actually not that great, or they're not that nice, or you just don't like their voice, or you're just not that attractive anymore. So it fades away. But limerence, it just constantly builds and builds and builds, and it builds as well on the uncertainty and the anxiety, which I mentioned earlier, which is what actually makes limerence so hard to kind of get out of sometimes. And there are some key tenets of limerence. Okay. And limerence on by the way, can last for months or for years. I have actually had limerence myself on and off for more than a decade. And I've actually seen other clients who've had, limerence. I've seen one that had limerence for, like, I think 3 decades. And this person was already in their 50s. So limerence can actually last really, really, really long because every single piece of information, whether positive or not, is actually used to feed into your limerence cycle. So, it's very difficult, like I said, to get out of the cycle. And which is why when people ask me, like, is there really any difference between the three? I say that yes, there's a difference between limerence, love, and crush. And when people ask me, like, does limerence become love? Because a lot of limerent people are actually very hopeful that their limerent object will start reciprocating and start they will fall in love and stuff like that. I've never seen that happen. Um, I don't want to give you any false hope, but limerence and love occupy very different energetic spaces. So for limerence to actually go into love, um, I wouldn't say that it's completely impossible, but I've never seen it happen. And because of how um it has been approached from the get-go, like you are already obsessed with a person you don't really know, that's not actually a very good setup for a loving reciprocal relationship. So usually limerence doesn't really actually go into love. Yeah. And because for the limerent individual, there are usually other things they're grappling with that make it quite difficult for them to actually really want to step into that, two-way reciprocal loving relationship as well. Story for another video. But I just want to point out a couple of key tenets about limerence that actually makes it very different from love and from crushes as well. um, the first thing is that limerence actually has a significant emotional roller coaster feeling attached to it. Um, there's the emotional highs and the emotional lows where you might feel euphoric when your limerent object texts you back, or they smile at you, or they maybe speak to you if you know them. But you crash really hard when they don't seem to respond, or they seem very distant, or they don't smile at you, they don't look at you, and then you feel devastated. Okay, so this constant cycle of like emotional highs and lows, it can be very addictive, and it's actually what keeps you in that cycle. You might even start to base your self worth and how you see yourself on your limerent object's responses, which can be really exhausting. It can be very damaging to your self esteem. Been there, done that. And another thing about limerence is that there's a significant part of it that is actually a sign of emotional unavailability, because limerent people tend to select people who do not know about them, do not like them, meaning that you have been outright rejected by your limerent object. They tend to select people that are already attached, taken, married, or are very far away, like physically, geographically in another country, um, in who is a celebrity, someone that you cannot actually get in real life. So selecting partners that are emotionally unavailable actually signifies that you are emotionally unavailable yourself. Um, and a lot of limerent people, in fact, I would say all limerent people have an element of emotional unavailability that is not healed. So you may see it come up in your other relationships in your life, like you're maybe with your spouse. Because yeah, there are some people, limerent people who are actually married, maybe your spouse, your family members, your friends. There may be this part of you that actually doesn't like to get very close, doesn't like to get very vulnerable, and is very secretive, very guarded, doesn't share your feelings, doesn't share your thoughts on on stuff in your life and things like that. So when you're emotionally unavailable, you tend to also somehow be attracted to people that are very equally emotionally unavailable, and you spend a lot of time thinking about them and chasing after them, like chasing after them to reciprocate your feelings, although you're not actually expressing much feelings yourself. Yeah, it's kind of a cycle, and it's actually linked to childhood stuff and trauma and attachment, styles, which I will talk about in another video. um but emotional unavailability or selecting emotionally unavailable partners is actually a sign of rejection, a sign of self-rejection and self-abandonment, because why would you want love? Okay, that is a reciprocal thing. It's a two-way street, but choose people that actually do not want you and that you cannot have unless you yourself feel that you are not deserving of these people or you're not deserving of love. And when you don't feel that you're deserving or worthy of love or of relationships or reciprocity or whatever it is, you tend to choose people that you already are sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, and that already proved that to you subconsciously. So you choose someone, let's say a celebrity, and you tell yourself like, I cannot marry anyone except this celebrity. And whereas deep down you already know that of course you can't marry the celebrity because you're not in their country, you're not in their social circle, and you don't know who they are. But you constantly cling onto the hope that you can marry them. But by doing so, you are actually already rejecting yourself, and you are already rejecting love. um because if you really really, how you actually approach love is actually a sign of what how you think about love and how you think about yourself in relation to love. So there are some people that keep going on dates, keep telling themselves like, I really want to fall in love, but every single part of their action or their behavior, is pulling them in the opposite direction. So your intention and your actions don't match, and that is what a lot of limerent people like to do. So their intention is really to fall in love, or they really like this idea of love, but having a real relationship is very scary to them. It makes them feel very insecure. It makes them want to run away, and it makes them, just not want to deal with it, which is why they're emotionally unavailable, and which is why they reject love, and which is why they also kind of choose people that already reject them or are emotionally unavailable. So the cycle continues. So it's important to actually have a bit of this distinction, because understanding limerence and that it is completely different, although it has some similarities with crushes and love, but that is completely different and distinct, because limerence can actually trap you or can keep you in a very unhealthy emotional loop that can last for several years, which is why I have people who are like limerent for decades. I was limerent for a decade plus. So you might stay stuck in limerence for someone who isn't right for you, someone who isn't interested, people who are not gonna reciprocate, because you're holding on to the fantasy of what could be, what should be, and you're hoping that they will actually notice you and reciprocate one day and fall madly in love with you. Okay, but recognizing limerence for what it is, which is a form of obsession based on fantasy and not reality, is the first step towards freeing yourself. And when you do, you actually open the door to the real reciprocal two-way street kind of love that you're actually probably looking for. The kind that is mutual, it is respectful, it is grounded in genuine connection, and it doesn't just stay in your head and as a sort of like fantasy, where you're constantly fantasizing about the person, but there's nothing actually really happening in real life. So it's actually important to make that distinction, because then that once you know that you are limerent, you know that this is actually the characteristics of limerence. You can then get out of there and get into the space where you start to attract more reciprocal, genuine love, and you can start to form healthy relationships with other people that who also like you, and not just a one-sided kind of thing. So Zofia, and for everyone out there who has this question about like how limerence is different from a love and crush, I hope this answers your question, and I also hope that this helps in some way. So that's the rundown of how limerence differs from love and crushes, and I hope this helped. And I'm going to be answering a lot more questions on limerence in the next couple of videos, because I see a lot of questions on it in my inbox. So I'll be taking my time to go through them and answer all of them. And if you have any questions, just drop me a comment on this video, or just send me a DM on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is linked down below as well. And I'll be taking your questions, and I'll be answering them in this videos as well, because I hope that it helps you and it helps someone out there as well. If you like my vibe, you like my style, and you like to work with me, my coaching sessions and my tarot sessions are also open. I'll link them down in the description box below. So I hope this video was helpful in some way. I'll be back for more, and wishing you a healthy, happy, loving day. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.